right, excellent afternoon, viewers. Today is one of those days Nigeria sits in reflection of where we are going, what are we doing, and how did we get here, or how did we get there, however it come across to you all. Right here, we are doing the same thing, but those questions will be answered by our guest on the show, and we will be throwing more light on that. Excellent again afternoon to our viewers. And of course, you are on to another interesting edition of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener. And hi, for how are you doing today? You're always the one always wearing this t-shirt. I keep forgetting.
It's Real Talk with Kike.
I know.
So what do I do?
Know.
You know, and Thursdays are dress down Thursdays. So hey, you know, we have to remind people that we're on the Real Talk show.
You're right.
You know, with
You're
Kike,
right.
of course.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Picking up the plan.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
You look amazing in orange. You know,
God.
it's your turn.
And
it was my turn.
Yes.
So Damilola's turn next week probably. Anyway, good afternoon. Good to see you, Damilola.
Yes. It's the second time this month.
I
saw you on Tuesday.
It doesn't matter. Hello, viewer. Welcome to our program. Welcome to Real Talk. Get ready for a bumper show today with us and join in the conversation. You're welcome.
All right, many thanks for that. Nigeria never ceased to speak with us from our past. Let's listen to what the history has to tell us on this day in history segment. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
On this day in history, October 21st, 2020, a year ago, a day after the October 2020 NSAS killing at the toll gate, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, initially denied reports of any loss of lives, but later admitted in an interview with CNN journalists that only 2 persons were killed. The Nigerian army initially denied involvement in the shooting, but later stated that it had deployed soldiers in the toll gate on the orders of the governor of Lagos State. A month after the shooting, following a CNN documentary on the shooting, the Nigerian army admitted to the Lagos State Judiciary Panel of Inquiry into the shooting that it had deployed its personnel to the toll gate with both live and blank bullets.
All right, so on this day in history, you know, exactly a year ago, I remember when this happened and how our governor then at the time, everybody had different submissions, analysis of what transpired at the Lekki toll gate. But I'm glad that at least it came out. And they said that only 2 persons were killed, even though a lot of people are still saying, oh, nobody was killed. Some people are saying there are more than 2. You know, but before I go on, Damilola, let me start with, let me come to you. What's your take with on this day in history today?
I think that basically we've just been rigmaroling 1 year after. We've not been able to get to any reasonable conclusion of what happened last year. And for everybody that is alive at this moment, we still saw what happened yesterday and the way a lot of unarmed Nigerians, unarmed youths, were being treated. And I will say that this course, I think maybe some people do not understand. Maybe some people think that it's not the right time. Maybe some people think it shouldn't even happen at all. But I even saw that even the people that are riding bicycle up and down in Lagos, LNNC, they are maltreating people. I don't know how you be sharing injection that it will enter carpenter's hand. Because some of these things, it really baffles me that we are still talking about this 1 year after. This the same way 2 years, 3 years, 5 years will pass. But I really want to say that I hope our leaders are going to understand the incidents and they will be ready for the antecedents that will follow, because they know, they are fully aware, and we are aware too. But we'll leave it till 2023. I have my PVC, so that's it.
That's very good to know that you have your PVC.
Good to know.
All right, Efo, what's your take on this?
Well, on this day in history, it's a good thing history has recorded it, and it will never go out of our history. And for me, it was just a season of denials from the state governor to the armed forces. And I think that's one of the most embarrassing moments in our history, really. And I'm hoping that we have learned. I am hoping we have learned, and We should stop ridiculing our nation because the world has become a global village now and everyone is watching.
As I earlier said, our edition today is a reflective, a reflective and a futuristic one. We want to reflect as far back as a year ago and access ourselves, especially when it comes to our country, with the projection of where we are headed or where we're going at the moment, politically, economically, and in terms of governance, in terms of administration, in terms of civil rights, democracy as well. Basically fundamental human rights of the people, and of course those are things that concerns us today, and I believe that Nigeria is nowhere with what I've mentioned thus far, and in that we should I believe that we should get a better feedback or better country where people will not keep what's it called, leaving the country, having brain drainage and the likes and all of that. But on the show today, our topic is not abstract, it is contemporary, and it is a general discourse that affects all Nigerians, and that is our reflection of the NSAS protest and working towards a better country. And that is the reason why I felt that it's important for us to channel this conversation today also on 2023 election. Not everyone understands the political and economic landscape of Nigeria, yet every Tom, Dick and Harry, can analyze Nigeria for the next 20 years. Sometimes when you engage people on the street, they also have an opinion. But on the show today, we have a well-learned professor in the field of politics and economics, and of course, is also a politician who is called Proficiency. Is on Nigerian contest itself. But let's take a quick look at his profile. We'll be right back. Before we connect to our guest via Zoom channel, I think it's important for us to just reflect on what transpired yesterday. There are loads of videos that we saw online. I followed some news channels as well. I saw where one of the Arise correspondent, was harassed by a police officer when they wanted to collect the drone from her. And I think for me, what she exhibited was more of courage, and knowing our rights, and that's part of the fundamental human right that we're going to be talking about today. I don't know if Dami and Efo, whether you guys saw all sorts that transpired yesterday, in as much as I feel that, okay, let me allow you speak.
No, I said I saw a whole lot of videos, and like you said, I think that she exhibited a lot of bravery. And for a woman, most times we sulk in because I see a lot of people being chanced. I will use the word chanced at even the slightest time that they should speak up. But for whatever happened yesterday, yes, she's a journalist. Yes, she has an ID card to back it up. Because in Nigeria today, what are we fighting for? iPhone is not a gun. Don't feel threatened by my hair. Don't feel threatened by my look. Because I've had instances where even police officers who do not know you, they flag you down on the road, and the first thing they're like, prostitute, where are you coming from? Excuse my language, but these are the languages that they use to address us on the road. They don't even know how dampen it can be, how demeaning it can be. They have already reduced you to the barest minimum before they even ask you the appropriate things, maybe your vehicle license, your particulars, or what have you. And their first approach is never, ever good. You find that if we have 100% of them, you find out that only maybe 6%. Yes, because I move on the road a lot and I usually meet a lot of police people. Maybe about 6% in all are very cultured and mannered. They haul insults, they abuse, and all. So if they do it on a normal setting, they didn't even understand that there were cameras or the world was watching. Now look at how our police organization, police form. Look at the reflection. Look at how you people disgraced us. You did not even disgrace us. You disgraced yourself. You disgraced the day they gave you the uniform. You disgraced the entire time you spent in your training school. And you disgraced any other person or everybody that had been your lecturers or your teachers or your trainees. Because my people used to say when they send you a slave work, you use child work. At least manners. At least know that you are there to protect lives and property. Look at the video of the man who pepper sprayed the Uber driver. The guy was still explaining, this is who I am. I'm just an Uber driver. I'm an innocent guy. But no, I saw up until the point that they actually turned the guy over, upside down. I really, it breaks my heart too much to even want to vent into this conversation because we are the problems of ourselves. That's the blunt truth. We are the politicians, we are the government. It's just us against us. Don't we see this? it's like we are fighting something that we don't know. Indirectly, we are fighting ourselves. You are fighting the common man that is saying end police brutality. You people have children. We mix up with some of your children. We meet your children. It's not as if it's very palatable. The other day, I said I had issues with Lasma. I went into Lasma junkyard. I call it a junkyard in Lagos Island, Olowu. It was gory. So what are we exactly fighting for? Let's ask ourselves when we get to reflect on these things, that what are we fighting for? Right. Maybe when we understand that, it will help us move further.
All right, many thanks, Damilola. Efo, what's your take on this?
I have said on this program once, Kike, I don't know if you remember, I can't remember who the other co-host was. I said the large percentage of our police force are illiterate. That's what it is. A good number of them, yes, they have the education, but do they have the exposure? They don't even know what they signed to do. They're supposed to serve the civilian populace. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So the roles are mixed when you start having them serve the elites and they leave the actual people they should be serving, because they're closest to the people. They live with us. Their barracks are in the midst, of residences in Lagos, and it really does break my heart, because we have, I'm sorry to use this language, but that's really my opinion. We have a primitive police force. They really are primitive. Link credence to what you said. Look at that Uber driver. See the way they were going to, he was sewn asunder. That guy had a fight in him. He did. I doff my heart for him. I do. Because 4 hefty men
against one person, unarmed?
one fragile human being, and you had the effrontery to spray pepper spray directly in his eyes. I would like to say that young man should go have his eyes checked out, because they're going to damage those eyes.
Then who's going to pay for it?
He will do it by himself. Because God forbid he goes blind. He's the one who will go blind. He has to look for the money. He has to go do eye checks. So, this is not the way it should be. This is the least we expect of our police force. But we have talked and talked and talked and talked. You've talked about their training. Who are their trainers? Who are their trainers? And what exactly do they teach them?
What was inculcated into them?
What do they teach them? You have a police training school in Ikeja,
yes,
where you have 4 trainees. What do you call them? To share one head of fish.
Yeah, we saw the.
Yes,
we saw
was
the
when
reports,
President
yes,
Goodluck Jonathan was there.
President, yeah.
I mean, who does that? That's dehumanizing. But let's stop making excuses for them. You need to. If you sign for this job, then you do the job.
But in a situation where let's stop making excuses for them. Yes. I also understand. But in a situation where, take an instance of the last mile office I said I went to. Now, I understand how they can behave. 4 people are sharing one head of fish. They are not even properly fed. Mm-hmm. Now, they are angry.
Who with?
With the people that they are supposed to be angry, or they are carrying their bags, or they are saluting, but they do not know. They are angry within them. They know the truth. But now, do they want to be charged for treason or felony or what's it called? So they turn against us and make it seem like we are the problem. We are the ones who want to incite them. But we are just looking for a better life for everybody.
I hear you both. I think that when I discussed this on radio yesterday, I think that there is a fundamental thing that we are missing here. Okay. And that is how we recruit the officials into the system.
Yes.
I feel that it's high time for us to unlearn certain behavior or culture. And what do I mean by that? I think that we should start recruiting these uniformed men, so to speak, police officers, yes, uniformed men from primary school, from secondary school. When you engage some youths, yes, when you engage some youths, you will see some youths or some children who would like to be a police officer.
True.
And if you engage them while they are young with good characters, do you understand? Not when they are already hooligans on the streets and you are now recruiting them into the system. Do you understand?
Yes.
You can never get a better character, a better human
Information.
behavior
Yes,
from them.
very true.
Because most of the time, they don't know better, and their foundation is what they are going to exhibit on the streets.
Very
So
true.
you know, and I felt that is another angle where I feel that we need to reorientate ourselves. And listen, we can all point fingers at the uniform men today, but in every organization there are bad eggs.
Absolutely.
You know, so it is because they are on the street, they are in our faces, hence the reason why we can now touchlight them to say, oh, whatever thing they are doing is horrible, whatever, which I agree. But the question is, when you look at, let's use NFA as an example, do you understand? How do they recruit people into the system? I, for one, I know quite a number of people who have reached out to me to say, oh, Kike wants to be a police officer, something, maybe based on your connect or whatever, do you understand? And it's just one phone call away. And before you know it, they go through the maybe few weeks training, and boom, they are in uniform.
Yes.
I don't know if you
I
understand
understand what you're saying.
background
so
Absolutely.
it is about, listen, it's not just about background check. I
Yes.
think it's about capturing them young when they can learn. When you feel that you'll be able to, it's just like our children. When do you imbibe good culture and value into our children? Not when they are older.
No.
It is when
At
they are
their
young.
impressionistic
But no, it's
stage.
That's what
But
I'm
no,
saying.
it's still
And I feel that is when we need to go back to the elementary schools. That is the reason why we need to go there and engage these youths. When you sit down with some of them, history is not even being taught, not to talk of how you can tailor down what they want to become in future, how you can tailor down how they can be better even with what they have decided to want to be in future. And I think those are part of the challenges that we are facing today. As far as I'm concerned, like everybody knows, do you understand? I really don't like to, you know, talk ill of uniform men, because my father is one, and I can tell you that he has contributed to the growth of who I am today. But the question is, he might be 1 out of 20. There are other people that might engage me tomorrow and say, oh, but your father also did ABC to me. Do you understand? So regardless of wherever we are, do you understand? As a person, wherever I am right now, there are some people that feels that, okay, Kike, you've done ill to me once upon a time. And I think for me, it depends on someone's action or character. If you come to me with ills, I will react the same way. That's the honest truth. So sometimes when you look at these people on the street, these policemen on the street, sometimes we the citizens do not act better. There are times that when they engage you, the first thing that comes from your head is agitation, is aggression. Do you understand? A natural person who is a police officer, who is already high on something, do you understand, will feel like, how can a woman talk to me like that? Or how can somebody who is so. So it is time for us to understand that while we are pointing fingers at the uniform, the rest is pointing at us, for us all to come together to act better, so that we can have a better society, so that all of us can understand the roles that we are supposed to play to have a good future, or a good, you know, I don't know. I think, do we have guests on our Zoom channel now, on our Zoom line? Are we connected to our guests? All right, I think we are still having challenges. Hello, Professor Itomi, are you there now?
I'm there, I can hear you.
Oh,
All right,
wonderful.
many thanks for joining us, and I must say that thank you so much for creating the time to do this with us. I really want to thank you, because I know that it was a short notice despite your busy schedules, and I did not take this for granted. Many thanks for always ready to honor my invite, and I think it's best for us to go straight to the business of the day, because I know that we've run out of time. And I think the first question I would like to ask you, sir, is that as a political economist and a leader that you are in the country, how should we be evolving from the NSAS protest? What should we be doing from the angle of leadership and that of the citizens?
I think the first point to make is that leaders or leader wannabes have to understand the concept of governance. You know, in 2008, the global financial system literally collapsed, and the solution everybody kept tapping on was that governance failed corporate world. We didn't have good corporate governance. The same thing with politics. Citizens are the owners of a country. They appoint managers, just like companies appoint executives. And those managers are politicians who get elected. The citizens ought to be able to continually hold the managers accountable. a society where the citizens are afraid of the government. First of all, it's a democracy. The government should be afraid of the people and must want to do right by the people, lest they be brought to some consequence for they are not accounting for the, if you will, message, errand, whatever it is that they've sent the politicians to go and do on their behalf. The youth of Nigeria last year tried to send a very clear message to the political class that you are not governing Nigeria effectively. I'm here in Abuja participating in an event, marking a birthday and looking at some of these kinds of issues. And one thing that is very obvious is Nigeria is economically, socially, security-wise crippled. Most of the reason is because a political class that does not understand accountability is in place and have not been held accountable by the people. If you look at the economy, fundamental to any economic development is power. Look, a country like Vietnam fought a long war. Americans were carpet bombing Vietnam. Everything was destroyed. The Vietnamese, after the war, embarked on a process of reconstructing. They decided, look, we need emergency power. They turned to those who make power. The things are available. They can just put that on a badge and roll it up the river in the case of Vietnam and supply power to everywhere. While the land infrastructure for power was being rebuilt in Vietnam. Within a few short years, Vietnam was self-sufficient in generating its power, and those badges that they used to get emergency power, a couple of them were shipped to Nigeria in the famous Enron deal. So power is not rocket science. That Nigeria can struggle for the last 30 years with getting the very basic of getting production going shows that anybody, and I'm not joking, anybody who has been involved in the decision process in Nigeria should be prevented from participating in political life because they failed the ultimate test. They let this country down in the most basic thing for development. And the reason is very simple. And the meeting I just left, the former Vice President Kike was president. I reminded him of the conversation we had then. A strategy had been worked out. Government was supposed to implement this strategy. By now, power would have been a story over 25 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever. But guess what? Some other minister came that was minded to make a little money, took a funny proposal to the president, got approval, and everything just came unraveling. This is what we have been going through. Minister after minister after minister. Look, the former minister of State Finance, Remi Babalola, was on a flight from some West African country into Nigeria, when he was a minister. And a West African who didn't know he was a minister, so he didn't know Nigeria, was just visiting, said to him, "Sir, this problem of power, Nigeria, off, light, off. I thought power was solved 100 years ago. Is it that you guys don't know where GE sells these turbines? If you want, I can help you buy it." And Babalola was so embarrassed, and he knew I had said similar things to him enough times that when he got out of the plane, the first thing he did was call me and say, "Come, somebody has just said to me what you have been saying." Not rocket science. It's just an inept and corrupt political class that has kept Nigeria from making progress with power.
Thank you very much, sir. I like the juncture where you ended your submission. It's just a bunch of corrupt leaders that have taken over the Nigerian space. But now, you also mentioned something. You said we, the youth, or the Nigerians are not holding accountable public officers. I think one of the accountability we can request for was to use the NSAS peaceful protest to request for some of these things that we are talking about now. But we have seen the way they replied us with violence, which we strongly believe, and I'm sure if you share my opinion too, it was not the best way to retaliate or to reply us. But now, moving forward... Sir? But now, moving forward critically...
They didn't respond appropriately. I praise the youth for that protest. They did their duty as citizens.
Good.
But even when they intervened the way they intervened, the youth should not have stopped. They didn't need to go back to the street the next day. They should have turned to other, they did not need to go to the streets the next day.
Okay.
They should have turned to other ways of protesting using technology and just continue the protest. We were children of protests as young people who were on the streets. They were more decent then. They didn't shoot us like, you know, these ones are doing.
They were more they didn't shoot at you people in your time. But now, if we're talking about using technology, we saw what happened with the Twitter ban. And some of these technologies are also means of livelihood for innocent Nigerians who did not even think of, okay, participating either in the NSAS protest, or they just want to go about making an ends meet genuinely. Now, if you want us to go back to technology to protest, we have different forms of it. But the government has showed us that the government has just showed us the autocracy that is actually happening in the corridors of power. Like, if you think you want to use this route, we can clamp it down.
You are not ready to fight. If you are not ready to fight, you are ready to fight, you can take them on globally from everywhere around the world with technology. We're just saying at this meeting I was at that the easiest thing is to, you know, anybody that wants, it's just out of simple respect that, you know, they seek permission. China does not allow certain these things, but technology has been entering, and even all-powerful China couldn't stop it for years. You know, get a WhatsApp call into China. I was in Beijing years ago. I was trying to get a WhatsApp and I found I couldn't. But there were Chinese on WhatsApp. You can circumnavigate these things if you want. That's the world we live in. So I encourage young people. I'm not blaming them. I think they've done a great job, but they should be more focused. They should realize the power that they have. Look, they tell you that this is the vote. It's a democracy. Check how many young people are there and they are voting, those who are in voting. Check the people who are stopping you. Clearly, you can take your protest to the world that you, the majority, are being implemented by a small minority. I know that Europeans and Americans have their own interests, and sometimes it is best for them to align with the forces of oppression because they don't want you emigrating to their countries. But you can show them that these things continue. There is no way they can prevent you from invading their countries. And they will realize that they are backing up the wrong horse, and they will support you trying to get equity and justice in your country so your country can make progress.
Professor Tommy, sir.
Because all what we're doing has only put our country back.
Professor Tommy, sir, it's good to have you on our program. Yes. And thank you thus far for your submission. I'd like to ask, how do we going forward, how do we go about harnessing the strength of our youths, especially with regards to governance of our country, keeping at the back of our minds that they're the future of this country? Hello, sir.
Yeah. Well, there are many ways that young people can do. First of all, I think that young people should think first of what kind of country they want to see, how they can decide on how to build that country in spite of whatever the policy environment is. Because I can tell you that policy retards progress in Nigeria. One of the biggest risks in doing business in Nigeria is regulatory risk. So how can young people create networks using technology to develop themselves, grow themselves economically? Because the bottom line is, if you don't have economic strength, you are easier to crush. You are so impoverished, you will take 1,000 from them to vote at the next election. How do you build empowerment using the fact that you live in an information age for yourselves? And then use that technology to educate other young people to say, this is not the kind of leadership we want. We want these sets of policies to define the future of our country. And then with that, you will drive them out of town, I can tell you. I know that they're my friends, they're cowards. Just organize consistently. I know a lot of young people, I've worked with many young people. They are amongst the smartest young people there are in the world. Unfortunately, the poor environment of leadership in the country is forcing young people to use those talents in cybercrime and other kinds of things, rather than use it to build a strong future for themselves. But you must stop just talking.
Tommy, many thanks. Many thanks for that, sir. Apologies, I have to interrupt your line of thought. I think it's important for me to quickly open our phone lines and so that other people can be part of this conversation. So the phone line to call, the studio number to call is 080-988-77400. It's showing on your screen right now. Remember that we're also streaming live on our YouTube page, Real Talk with Kike, and of course on our Facebook page as well. And of course we're streaming live on Silverbird platform on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can be part of this conversation. Professor Patti Tomi, you know, you've shared a lot thus far, and I think I want to come back to the economic situation of our country, because I know the economy of this country is falling day by day, and we see many indices that tells us that from lost value in terms of currency, then external debits and the like. So as an economist, what should we be doing to revive the economy? And what kind of leader do you think that we expect in do you think we should be expecting in 2023?
Amazingly enough, General Ibrahim Babangida put it very well. You need a leadership that, first of all, is pan-Nigerian, broadly Nigerian in scope, can connect up around the country. You need a leadership that understands economics, because the major problem of this country is that those who lead don't understand economics, and in most of their decisions, they do damage to the economy of Nigeria. They don't realize it, they don't do it out of wickedness, but out of ignorance, they do damage. I keep referring to China and how a very powerful leader, revered around the world, Mao Zedong, was killing the country, but he did not know it. They had cultural revolution, all kinds of anti-intellectual things that they were doing. Then he died, and then took over. And the mantra for them is that the party, the country must respect intellect and intellectuals and insert them to be the movers of progress for the country. The address in December of 1978 to the Congress of the Chinese Communist Party is one that should be studied for how he points to the future of China and the place of intellect in making that go. The current political class in Nigeria has ridiculed intellect, and because they don't have respect for intellect, they're making wrong decisions everywhere. Let's give you a simple example. You are talking about currency and all of that. You see, central to the strength of your currency, central to your well-being, everything is production, not revenues. We are obsessed in the political class with revenues, oil revenues, revenue from taxation, revenues. But the thing that goes first is production. When you produce, then you can tax those who have made a success of production. But look at what is being done. What is done to facilitate production in this country? The biggest risk of doing business in Nigeria is regulatory risk. Government is more likely to kill your business than any other thing, markets and all of that. So if you have to train government officials to realize that authority is not the license to bully, because that's the way the mindset of a Nigerian public official is. You are last man. You have a uniform. Bully all the people on the road. You are the regulator. Pummel all the people who do business in your area to submission. Know that after God, there is you. Most of the people who can come will not come. Most investors will not come because they can't deal with that. The few that have come are leaving. Look at the number of South African companies that are leaving Nigeria. And with just a little more push, and MTN too will go. And you see, our political class does not understand that. They think everything is a game. How can you get what you can? How can you let people know your power?
Hello,
you
sir.
got to cultivate. Yes.
Hello, sir. Yeah, many thanks for what you shared earlier, because earlier you said that they do not have respect for intellectuals, and that's the reason why we are where we are today. But I must say, sir, because I heard of the 2023 general elections, you know, prominent politicians like yourself, Ahmed Abdul Fattah, Professor Tunde Adeniran, I hope I'm correct, former governor of Cross River State, Donald Duke, and also Professor Atairu Jega, formed Rescue Nigerian Project, that is RNP, to give Nigerians alternative platform to the All Progressive Congress, that is APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP. So I must ask you, sir, as an economist as well, and an intellectual as that you are, what is the coalition or the new party about, and what do you intend to achieve with its formation?
But I think the first thing is that in Nigeria we are obsessed with political parties, and political parties just become more of the same. What we need is a movement, first of all, to change consciousness of Nigerians about where Nigeria should be going. And several of these movements have arisen. One of the movements which has crystallized as the Rescue Nigeria project is focused on quality of leaders and leadership selection. What kind of people should participate in public? Not anybody who has lost a job comes and says, I don't have a job now, I can be a politician. Or somebody who has just done enough 419 to gather enough money comes and decides to buy a state. What you get, you will take. So those are the kinds of things that RNP is focusing on. There is another group that came even much earlier, focusing on constitutional reform, electoral process reform. That group, the NC Front, has again consistently pushed along these lines, claimed a little victory over the Senate pushback on electronic transmission of votes, which is very, very important. That electronic transmission of votes is one step, but not all that needs to be done to reform the electoral process. Political parties need to be reformed because political parties, first of all, don't believe in any body of ideas that they own as how the country should make progress. They are not socializing a generation of people who can implement those ideas. They don't have any clear values that, anybody who will be a member will subscribe to, ethics and all of those things. Those are fundamental to political parties. So NC Front is pushing for that. There's another group focusing mainly on economic reform. My good fortune is that I belong to all of these groups. Now, if we can...
Before you go further, sir, we have a caller on the line from Osun State. Many thanks for calling. What's your contribution on the topic at hand? John?
Connection.
Apologies, I have to let that go. Please.
Professor Tony, sir, thus far, you have told us how that you belong to the progressive groups that are springing up from all sides. It's nice to hear that. But in practical terms, like Sonny Okosun said in one of his songs, which way Nigeria? How do we get out of the quagmire we have found ourselves in practical terms, sir?
A couple of things that we can do. First of all, is consciousness. We have to spread this message. This meeting, this conversation is an important part of it. Get consciousness generated. Nigerian people feel powerless, so we can't do anything. They will rig the election. It doesn't matter what we do. Give them examples. I give always the example of Kanu, when Ibrahim Shekarau was a civil servant who found that what the governor was asking them to do were not the right things. He kept saying, we should send this to this ministry to do this, do that. And the government decided to humiliate him. So when they found that it was not so easy to sack him, because there wasn't enough that could be shown that he did, they decided to send him back to the classroom because he came up a teacher's track. And people began to say, look, why don't you challenge the governor? He said, who am I? I don't have the money. I don't have any resource. The youth said, come on, go. The late Damasan Kanu, Madam Asule said, people are asking you to run. You say you don't have money. Who says it's about money?
All right, sir. Professor Tomi, we have a caller from Rivers State, from Abia State. His name is Paul. Paul, many thanks for calling. What's your contribution on the topic at hand?
How are you there?
Thank you.
Good
Please go
afternoon.
straight to the point.
I want to say something about our police force in Nigeria here. You know, I know that I am a former police football player and a student. Now, you know, they have been paid either from the federal government or state government. But what they used to do on mail, collecting money from private vehicles or private vehicles, is not good. Because foreigners will be seeing all these things. When they go to their country, they will now say, look at how Nigerian police.
I'm sorry, I have to let that go, but I must say that when you're calling us, please try to reduce the volume of your TV set so that you can be audible enough to contribute to the topic at hand. Therefore, please go ahead.
Okay, Professor Tony, how are we going to, we see the numbers of our youths leaving the country in their droves. In the first place, what can we do to make them stay back so that we can begin to build our nation afresh? And how do we reach the high echelon of government? How do we begin to speak to their conscience?
Well, I mean, you're doing it as you speak now, but I have to admit that many of them have lost a sense of shame. Because if we had a sense of shame, many of them by now will not be able to walk on the streets. But they don't understand the damage they are doing, so they have no sense of shame. I think that we must essentially, from the private sector perspective, organize to create the kind of value that will enhance the meaning of living in Nigeria. I talked yesterday somewhere about vocational executive education, where you can take graduates who are unemployed, put them through 6 months of rigorous training. Their minds are broad enough as graduates to pick up some real skills, whether it's tech skill, whether it's even plumbing skill or tiling skill, and give them entrepreneurship education, and they set up small gangs, change policy, road maintenance. Instead of waiting till the road is completely dilapidated and you go and look for Julius Berger, what you should do is have a gang of 4 or 5 young civil engineers, tell them this 7 miles of road is yours to maintain. Every month we'll pay you so much. We don't want to ever see a pothole. If we see a pothole on that road, you are gone. All these kinds of things will empower young people, improve infrastructure, and begin to make us make progress. Look, people who are power must realize that these things are short-term, they're ephemeral, and we saw powerful people, you know, in the world who suffered humiliation and even public lynching when their time was up because they didn't think of serving the people right. They must not allow this to be their fate in Nigeria, because the people are getting fed up and they will be shocked what can happen.
Okay, Professor Tommy, when you were talking about what happened in Kano, citing the example of what happened in Kano, I think you would agree with me that you and I know that it's quite expensive to venture into politics these days. Especially, I once heard that if you want to be a governor of Lagos State, you need to have 2 billion naira somewhere kept. That, of course, it feels like you're putting fire in the amount of money that you are not even sure that you are going to get there. Now, looking at the clause of APC and PDP, haven't held a lot of Nigerians under the guise of hunger. They have used hunger as a weapon to hold on to Nigerians and to say, okay, you are liable to us. Now, it's like, permit me to use the appellation, you have sold me your soul. How can Nigerians that are hungry actually make a decision, sir?
Well, I think that if people realize that, and then it's going to happen through use of technology to educate one another, that 1,000 naira today will make you so much more hungry tomorrow, and decide that nothing will make them take any cover or take the money and vote for somebody else in a certain manner to bring change about, the power is within the young of this country to change this whole thing. There are enough young people, if they just register to vote, if they organize. Politics of organization. Because most are not organized, that they take advantage of only a few voting to buy the desperate and get themselves, quote unquote, elected and rigged and all of that. The example of Shekarau in Kano, where the young people surrounded all the voting materials, ensured that the votes could not be tampered with, even though everybody from the leaders of Shekarau's own party to the leaders of the then party in power, all were against him winning. The youth of Kano ensured that he beat the incumbent governor by 400,000 votes. It can be done. It's a matter of just organizing. And very soon, we're going to create a direct democracy platform that will allow on a platform similar to WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever, people to organize in geographies. Can be Surulere people discussing the problems of security in Surulere. Then after a week or two of that conversation, the 5 best ideas on how to best protect Surulere will move up to security mainland. And 555 from all the various parts of mainland will be involved in this general conversation. And then what comes out of Lagos goes into a national platform and then gets accepted by a shadow government that must be created. We must announce one in the next 2-3 weeks, actually. And that government will use data to hold the government's feet to the fire. Nigerians must make their government accountable going forward. That way, people will see that the power belongs to them. And the next election, they can throw out all the rascals.
Professor Patitomi, for your contribution thus far, I must say it has been an interesting time with you on the show today. But before we let you go, there's a segment that we call Trending Story. This is stories that affect us all, that bind us together as family, as one. And the first trending story that caught our attention is that of the NSAS, the issues of NSAS, the police who disrupted the rallies that took place yesterday. And of course, they arrested some journalists and charged them. And we saw a lot of videos online. And I think that before I ask for your submission, I think it's important for me to quickly ask Efo, what's your take? I know we've discussed this earlier before. We said yes. Briefly, please.
We can't say too much of these things because we see them happen all of the time. My point here right now is, how do we reform the Nigerian police? How do we do it? They're the closest to the people. They live in our communities. The police stations, are built around the residences. So going forward, how do we reform the Nigerian police? Damilola.
I would like to say that I share from your own submission to reformation is very key. And like Kike also said, maybe we should go back to elementary, pick them while they are young. Some children already they know that they want to guide people, they know what they want to do. Maybe if we start from there, maybe, and with what Professor Patutomi said, that the people should also realize that we can hold them accountable. Yes. Maybe we'll leave the era of where we have to summon or we have to invite one of our senators to a town hall meeting and they begin to oblige us. Maybe we'll start from there. So I think I'm just cool on it.
All right. For me, like I said earlier, that it's time for us to go to the elementary school, because when you engage the youth of today or the children of today, yes, I know that what they want to become could change. It changes from time to time. But you will see some of them who will tell you that they want to be a uniform officials and all of that. So for me, I feel that we have channeled our energy towards the youth and the police brutality and bad governance and all sorts. But not many of us are looking at the angle of the policemen who have also lost their lives. I have tons of family friends that passed on last year, that till date I'm still visiting their family members. So in my head, I'm wondering, who are the people? Do we understand how some of their family members are actually, or their relatives are actually faring today? So when we are channeling our energy towards police brutality, I think it's important for us to also understand the welfare of serving police and other armed forces that haven't changed till date. Because as far as I'm concerned, the welfare and their salary still remains the same. The 5x5 what's it called? agenda that was placed last year is yet to be met. So I think that these are some of part of the challenges or angle that we should be looking at effectively to bring some level of sanity or a systematic turnaround with all the challenges we are facing at the moment. However, nobody is also talking about the public properties, the monumental disruptions that a lot of people suffered last year. You know, because I understand all sorts that happened last year when some media outfits were burnt down. Nobody's talking about that. I also feel that nobody is also talking about the properties of Lagos state government. Whether we like it or not, I know that 10 years to come, some of these properties can never be recovered. So we need to sit back and actually reflect, because that was what I meant earlier when I said that we keep pointing fingers at the police officers. We are forgetting that the remaining 4 fingers are pointing back at us. We are forgetting that we all need to come together and deliberate and look for how we can, you know, solve our issues without not disrupting properties. I know a lot of loss of BRT buses and many more that were burnt last year. Likewise, you know, I think that with everything that I have shared thus far, I just feel that Nigerians have to change. We all just have to change our outlook when it comes to how we resolve our crisis. I feel that holistically we can, you know, make a proper approach with how we end issues, especially when we do not agree. You know, we can disagree to agree, but depending on the dialogue that we want to take. But quickly, Professor Patitomi, please, in 1 minute, what's your take on yesterday's rally that took place?
Well, you know, many years ago, Frantz Fanon wrote that the oppressed are willing instruments in oppressing others, because the opportunity to oppress people in their own kind of situation makes them feel liberated from being oppressed. The police are in the community, they are part of society. Part of the way that the elite has managed to manipulate the police is by not allowing community policing. People taking from their community, you know them, they see you, they know your children and your grandchildren. You go and bring somebody from Kaduna and make a policeman in Enugu. You take somebody from Calabar, make a policeman in wherever else. These things do not help policing. But they are our brothers. We need to speak together. Look, finally, I'll just close. Once upon a time, the president of the Philippines wanted to use force against
Many thanks, Professor Patitomi. Many thanks for that. We've run out of time. We've run out of, but we thank you again for, you know, creating time to be part of our lunch show today. It was indeed an awesome time with you on the show. Of course, you are a resourceful person that I will always respect, and of course, you know, I respect you with our long-lasting relationship over the years. But again, many thanks for honoring my invites. With that, we've come to the end of another edition of Real Talk Weekend. So we'll come your way on Thursday or
Tuesday.
next week.
Next week, Tuesday.
Say bye now.
Bye-bye.